They work strong style with each other, so they go hard on one another, and it's rough stuff.
They're not selling it. It actually hurts.
Yeah. I mean, shit, Mitsurumu Sawa died in the ring.
Yeah.
I mean, that was because of a bad placement on a bump, but they go after each other over there, and because to them it's about like preventing the fight, and that's how they tell their story. While in American wrestling, it's more or less they tell a story, and then the fight's just kind of there as part of it.
The fight is almost the resolution to the story.
Right.
Whereas in
Japan,
other places, it's part of the story.
In Japan, that's the story.
Yeah.
That's the story is the fight. Like, that's its mass appeal, at least like worldwide, to people like me who don't understand what's going on because I don't speak Japanese or understand it. To me,
neither do I.
To me, what I'm watching is, the fight, and the way that they fight each other is always very intensely, like, there's always a certain amount of pride on the line. So that's how they tell their stories. While, you watch the WWE, the really good matches that they have are steeped in storylines like that. So that's the type of style Hideo Itami was having to work, was where he was working those really stiff matches. So he probably thinks, one, this is a cakewalk over in America and is just laughing every day. But
possible.
But he may not have that many years. And Sami Zayn's another perfect example because of the way he works. Like, he's he's one bad spot away from not coming back. So
I mean, and that's one of the things that we look at when we watch wrestling. We're like waiting for the next big thing, and then we see something coming up, and then we're like, oh man, maybe this is it. And then you go, oh wow, you've been doing this long? Ah, crap.
Right.
Can I invest my emotion in you?
That's the tough one.
Do I put it in for you and hope that you're going to be more than just the Intercontinental Champion?
Well, right now that's not such a bad thing, considering they've done their best to raise the profile of the low belts. Because, and this is why I like what they're kind of doing with the Cena-Rusev thing, because they're keeping Cena and Rusev away from each other every week. And I think that's something that they've lost sight of, too, is the fact that, like, you don't need to give people what you're trying to sell them at the end of every month, every week.
Yeah, like if there's, like the only way I can put it is in the 80s watching wrestling, where if Hogan called out, let's say, the Warrior, or he called out Macho Man or whatever, it would be a month or two before they even got near each other.
Right. And the whole time they would be talking shit to each other, hyping it up. And it got you excited about wanting to see them finally get their hands on one another. And I think that's something that's kind of lost right now with the mass exposure that wrestling kind of has. Because if you think about it, the WWE itself accumulates about 6 to 7 hours of new programming every week with Raw, SmackDown. I'm not even including NXT.
Yeah.
Right? Like in Main Event and Superstars. You're talking about 6-7 hours of programming a week that they have to put out. And then they have their Farm League, which is NXT, which we'll get to talking about later.
Yeah.
They have another hour of programming that they have to put together for. And then on pay-per-view weeks, they have 3 more hours. That's 10 hours of programming a week. That they're having to record every week. Unlike back in the day when you had 2 hours on Monday, and then randomly throughout the week you had an hour or 2 hours that would show up on the weekend.
Yeah.
5 hours, it was never a live show. They were always showing you, they would do tape for weeks, but they can't do that anymore because of the internet.
Well, yeah, because everybody wants to put their results online.
Right.
They want to ruin it for everybody.
Right, and what's the fun in watching something if you know what's going to happen?
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I kind of quit going to rumor sites. Actually, that and I got banned from WrestleZone, but Another story for another day.
I mean, I know we drifted. We were talking about the longevity of wrestlers.
Right. That all has to go into it is how the business works these days. Another thing that wrestlers have more longevity now than they would previously in the past is because they're not living the hard lifestyles that they used to.
You see a lot of wrestlers that are really straight edge, and they're just as clean as it gets. Vegan. I mean, you're just like your idea of
vegan. They usually just go veg because being vegan on the road is nearly impossible.
Yeah.
This isn't a vegan-friendly country. This is America. We have cheeseburgers here.
Yeah, and we have steak too, and we just had steak.
Yes, red meat.
And with that, guys, we're going to take a break. Okay, guys, we're back, and we're gonna close our large segments out tonight. I don't know. Why don't we just call them periods?
Periods.
We got like 3 periods. We're like hockey,
right?
Maybe some overtime on the side. I don't know.
Since there's no more of that in this town. Oh, yeah. Too soon.
Oh man. Oh, that sucks. But yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about NXT, and is it the number 2 brand for professional wrestling or not?
I think that hands down it is.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the whole decided inside advantage that it has.
Now break that down for me if you could.
Well, I mean, you work for the WWE.
It's just how you say it. You made
it's
it
essentially
sound complex.
Yeah. Well,
you made something simple sound really difficult.
That's how it is, actually, probably, if you think about it. But, I mean, what they have been able to successfully do is finally what they couldn't do with Raw and SmackDown, and that's establish a brand separate from the WWE and its association.
Like, you wouldn't call it a minor league?
Well, you would kind of call it a minor league right now just because they're not, okay, they're just now getting out on the road, and they're just trying to see what their drawing power is. Now, granted, there's a lot of people out there who pay their $9.99 a month so they can watch NXT. And another thing that NXT does right, if you remember this, quarterly big events, right, is what they do. Like the arrivals, I guess, would be their pay-per-views, and they only do those quarterly. And every week, you're not having every single person's storyline shoved down your throat. So they're able to pace everything out better. What they're doing with their women's division. I mean, how can you call it a minor league when you know those girls don't want to be called up to the main roster?
They're already
they're stars down there, and I think because they're finally starting to get out on the road, they're going to see what their drawing power is. The more they get them out on the road, the more you legitimately establish them as a second brand. Now, where they lose their advantage is if the WWE gets kind of jealous of what they're doing, then they'll cherry pick their stars and put them on the main roster, and then send down a bunch of half-wits that they feel aren't working on the main roster back to NXT.
Swap the mid-card.
Right, and then where are you as another brand? So I think what's important in this phase with what they're doing is trying to establish themselves as a successful second brand, because everybody always talks about how great the Attitude Era was, but you have to remember what drove that was the competition with WCW. So,
but I mean, why is not a group like Chikara, New Japan Pro Wrestling, GFW, Great North Wrestling, Ring of Honor, OVW?
They don't have the money. Well, OVW was left in the wake. They used to be a development territory. What's happened here, I think, with NXT is them having the platforms, like people were watching it on Hulu, and you had your indie fans that were already interested to see what the WWE was going to be doing with all the guys they were signing on the indies. What they've done with NXT is actually established a good second brand that would appeal to those nerds. You know, and I say nerds as a term of endearment. I don't want to sound like, because I am one of those nerds.
What about TNA?
Poor writing, poor booking. Where do you want to begin with that company and all the horrible, horrible mistakes they've made?
I think a lot of people have already beaten that horse, so we're not even going to...
Like I said, where do we start? I don't know where to start. All I can tell you is that I watched TNA for years, you know, hoping that at some point it would turn the corner. And then just at some point, it got so ridiculous to me that I didn't want to watch it anymore.
I think the last time I was watching it, AJ Styles was wrestling for him.
Right. And he's doing really well for himself over in New Japan.
Yeah, which, you know, I catch myself trying to watch their stuff when I can.
New Japan is a solid product, but they have their market cornered over in Japan.
Yeah. I'm not trying to compare New Japan with WWE.
Well, the WWE does what it does. GFW, best of luck. We'll see how Jarrett does with round 2. Hopefully he'll realize that hiring Vince Russo may not be the best idea.
Probably won't be the last time we hear that on the show.
Maybe not bring in guys like Eric Bischoff. You know? Hogan's sewed up with the WWE for life now at this point because he's not trying to be on TV all the time, and they basically keep him on retainer so he can show up and make appearances.
Yeah, do a Raw appearance.
Right, you know.
Call every place the Superdome, Silverdome, whatever.
Good times.
You know.
That's the point. That's what Hulk Hogan's there for.
So basically, NXT is
number 2 because they have the marketing advantage.
So my next question would be this.
All I'm saying is when you watch a Raw and you see Neville come out, they don't start a Chikara chant. They don't start like a 1PW chant. They start an NXT chant. Yeah. So everybody already immediately recognizes NXT as being an alternative brand.
Yeah.
So Chikara, Ring of Honor, those are the ones that like you have to kind of look for. I'd say your solid third right now. It's going to be a tie based on exposure, and that's TNA and Ring of Honor. And TNA used to be ahead of Ring of Honor, but now that Ring of Honor has like weekly TV, sorry TNA, you lost your advantage.
Yeah, lost some of your wrestlers too, but that's another story.
Well, that's because they keep hiring Weejecks. Like that's what they base their company off of. It's like this person did make it in the WWE, so we're going to hire them. Ethan Carter III? Really? That dude didn't even make it to the main roster. And you made him like the crown jewel of your company. I'm not like trying to dog Ethan Carter III because, like I said, I don't watch TNA, but I'm just saying if like this is a guy who didn't even get up to the main show. And immediately comes down, and he's part of like the main event picture in TNA.
So you at one point you're like, he didn't put in his time yet.
It's not that he put in his time; it's just that he's not proven.
Okay.
In my eyes, it's like it seems like what you know. And once again, I didn't watch any of that because, like I said, at that point, I was just kind of fed up with how they were doing things down there. It was too ridiculous for me. And I did not feel like wasting the 30 minutes every week to fast forward through the whole thing on my DVR.
Okay. So like you said it, NXT is the number 2 brand.
Right. So that's what your kids need to be watching.
Okay, guys. We're closing this episode with that. Understand NXT is the number 2 brand. Patrick says it, so it's the truth. I'm Jack. He's Patrick.